Russia just revealed huge oil cuts that are planning to kill the whole oil and gas industry. A senior Russian official has suggested that the country may reduce oil production by 5 to 7% in early 2023. And Russia would also stop supplies to nations that support the price ceiling on its oil products. The state television said that the Deputy Prime Minister, Alexander Novak, did the cuts between 500,000 and 700,000 barrels per day. These comments are represented Russia's first detailed reaction to the price caps imposed on Russian energy exports. These price caps were set by the Western Superpowers in retaliation to Moscow's invasion of its neighbor Ukraine. So what does this mean in the energy world? How would this impact international relationships? And what are the complications that could arise from the actions of Russia? So in this video, we're going to talk about Russia's massive oil cuts that have a potential to destroy the entire global economy. But before we do that, make sure to smash the like button below and subscribe to make sure you are staying updated on geopolitical movements. Last December, the G7, EU, and Australia imposed a cap on the export of Russian oil that's $60 per barrel, along with the European Union's ban on maritime imports of Russian crude oil. The United States, Canada, Japan, and the United Kingdom has also made commitments to limit their own imports at current prices. The European Union has also imposed price controls on gasoline. The goal of these actions is to reduce Russia's financial resources without causing an interruption in vital energy exports. However, Moscow has made it clear that it would cut off oil and oil product exports to all nations participating in the price cap. It would then require such countries to find alternative sources for their oil. The overall amount of crude on the market would decrease if Moscow also decreased its output, as Novak had said. Ultimately, this would hurt people worldwide by driving up the price of oil that doesn't come from Russia. This would eventually give Russia the advantage that it needs in its negotiations with the Western powers. Novak had indicated that Russia is willing to bear the risk of reduced production right now, rather than follow the selling policy about the price caps. The $60 may not seem like a lot right now, but in the future it might be a lot. The Russian officials also commented that they couldn't risk relying on the policies of nations with strained relations. Novak's remarks sparked a discussion that could possibly serve as a prelude to future events. Oil prices worldwide went up by more than $1 because people thought the crude supply would go down, and because of this price, a single barrel of crude oil rose by 73 cents or 0.9% to $81.70. Meanwhile, in the US, West Texas Intermediate oil barrels rose 91 cents or 1.2% to $78.40. The price of it had been $82.17 and $78.17 earlier in the session. Brent crude oil was also expected to rise 3.3% and WTO 5.5% for the second consecutive week. A senior market analyst at the New York-based foreign exchange firm Alanda said that the crude prices are up because traders are willing to see how Moscow reacts to the price ceiling on Russian oil. In addition, Russian President Vladimir Putin stated that a decree outlining Moscow's reaction to the price ceiling will be issued by the end of December. According to Novak, Russian oil exports comprise 22% of the total worldwide market. He then goes on to mention that Russia exported 20% of the world's gas, demonstrating the world's reliance on Russian energy. He then goes on to state that there have been European efforts to reduce dependence on Russia for oil and gas. However, Russia still remains the highest exporter of energy worldwide, and Moscow has been working to broaden its customer base. Sergei Novak has predicted that the oil prices would stay between $70 and $100 per barrel during the time of the 2023, and this would prevent any surprises from occurring during this year's time. Natural gas pipelines from Russia supply around 40% of Europe's needs, and approximately 150 billion cubic meters were delivered last year. Most of this gas travels via Ukraine to Eastern European countries, including Austria, Italy, and Slovakia. The operator of Ukraine's transmission system has declared force majeure at the pipeline's entrance point in Sokhanova. The eastern section of the nation's pipeline, which crosses through Ukraine, is currently under Russian occupation. Ukraine's state-owned energy business has announced plans to double the country's natural gas output. They have claimed that they could get gas to Europe in time for the coming winter. The European Union has been looking for new sources of supply. Most of them have been ignored by Russia because they refuse to pay in rubles, the Russian currency. Germany is amongst the countries that still rely on Russia gas imports to keep them warm this winter. The Yamal-Europe pipeline cuts into Belarus in Poland before arriving in Germany as an alternate route to Europe that avoids Ukraine. Moreover, approximately 1/6 of Russia's gas exports to Europe go through the Yamal-Europe pipeline, which has a capacity of 33 billion cubic meters. Since the beginning of this year, flows between Poland and Germany have shifted the direction of the flow, and so it now moves in the eastern direction. The Russian government has sanctioned the Yamal-Euro pipelines as Polish ownership. However, Poland's environment minister has stated that his country can get by without the Yamal-Europe's pipeline reverse gas flow. Russia has stated that there is a delay in the return of the Nord Stream 1's equipment transfer to Canada after it was given for maintenance and repair after the leakage incident. This had interconnected gas networks in Europe, allowing the sharing of supplies among the member states. The global gas supplies were already in constraint before the conflict in the Ukraine escalated. Germany, which buys more gas than any other European country, has disapproved the new Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline from Russia because of the war in Ukraine. Germany would instead get its supplies via pipelines from the UK, Denmark, Norway, and the Netherlands. Norway is increasing its output, making the second largest gas supplier in Europe right behind Russia. And their goal is to assist in the European Union of reaching its goal of being energy dependent from Russia's fossil sources by 2027. Centrica, a British energy provider, has agreed to pay Equinor of Norway for additional supplies over the next 3 winter seasons. British gas exports to Europe are not dependent on supplies from Russia. Gas from Azerbaijan may be transported to southern Europe via the Trans-Adriatic pipeline to Italy and through the Trans-Anatolia national gas pipeline through Turkey. The United States has pledged to deliver 15 billion cubic meters of liquefied natural gas to the European Union by the beginning of 2023. However, U.S. LSG plants are operating at a maximum capacity, and a blast of the export terminal in Texas will force the facility to remain shut down until late November. Furthermore, there really isn't much room for growth in Europe's LSG terminals. However, governments have said that they're looking into methods to increase imports and storage, and Germany is one of the countries involved that they intend to build a new terminal at. So what has been Russia's response actions? Russia has exponentially increased the export capacity of its pipeline to China to an astounding figure of 60 million cubic meters daily. China Media Group has reported, with the total flow from Russia into China at a massive rate of 22 billion cubic meters this year. That would compare with the 15 billion cubic meters delivered via the power of Serbia last year, and a total of 30 billion since the launch of the pipeline 3 years ago. Gazprom keeps increasing gas exports to China via the power of Serbia gas pipeline. In 2022, gas supplies regularly exceeded daily contracted amounts based on China's request. And as a result, Gazprom had exceeded their yearly obligations, reported Gazprom's chief executive Alexei Miller at the end of 2022. China has become a more or less first priority destination for the Russian state gas major. After breaking it off with Europe, but in fairness, it had been a priority for years before that, as well as Russia turned east for new markets amid worsening relations with the West. The Power of Siberia was one of the biggest projects recently completed by Gazprom and the first conduit for Russian gas to China. Now there has been talk about Power of Siberia 2, which Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak commented last year that it would serve as sort of a replacement for the defunct Nord Stream 2 in Gazprom's export growth strategy. Indeed, the Power of Siberia 2 is built, the total capacity of the new pipeline will top 50 billion cubic meters, almost as much as the 55 billion cubic meters in the capacity that Nord Stream 2 has. Construction work on the new pipeline is scheduled to begin in 2024. Meanwhile, last year Gazprom's gas exports were set to fall by about 50 billion cubic meters, again, as per Novak. Speaking to the media in September, the Deputy Prime Minister also said plans are to boost gas exports to China to more than 61 billion cubic meters by 2025. Well, that's it for today's video, so comment down below what your thoughts are, and don't forget to click the bell icon after clicking on the subscribe button.